To piggyback off that food point, have you picked a favorite spot since coming back?
So I can't. I'm not willing to claim a favorite because that rules out all others that could be my favorite. So right now it's a work in progress. The playoff pool has not been selected yet. We're taking all qualifiers.
In terms of actual football, you guys set for a July 24th start for fall camp. Have you ever started a fall camp earlier than that?
No, I haven't. And actually, yeah, just to be clear, not a fan of starting that early. The season is long, coach's lifestyle limited, vacations not very long, so that cuts into it. However, when you look at broader picture for the Mountain West Conference and possibly for our program, exposure does matter. And yeah, so there's trade-offs sometimes that you make.
I think you guys were all back after the end of the semester on June 2nd, right? And then was that 3 weeks or a month? Or a little less than that?
A little less.
A little less? So you guys, the players, you guys did get a little bit of time off.
Players got time off, coaches got 5 days.
5 days? Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. There's 10 names I think we hadn't seen on the roster.
Okay.
The new roster, the updated one. There's one name in particular I'm pretty intrigued by, Colby Brewer.
Yeah.
He's 29. He was a Navy explosives tech for a little bit. How did he kind of come into the fold?
Great question. Yeah, so Colby is Special Forces. Was trying to find a place in college football that would let him walk on. Tried a number of places. We heard about his story through one of our existing strength staff members who was a former player of mine, Ben Hogg, who went out to San Diego to do some training, lived with basically his former friend. That's how we got word of him, looking to walk on. Before we could even invite him, he was in his car on his way. And yeah, he's impressive as a human being, capable and humble at the same time, and learning or relearning to play the game. We don't have any idea what role he'll play yet, but I am compelled by the story and love the idea of someone, regardless of age, chasing their dream, and could not provide an opportunity for him to do that. And so it's fun. It's unfolding. Still don't know how good a football player, but know the type of person and the type of work ethic. And man, kind of any challenge that we put in front of him, it's fun to watch what he does to that.
There's 10 new names, a lot of incoming freshmen like Colby and stuff like that, some junior college transfers. You guys added another quarterback. I think that's 5 in the room now, James Lobstein. What'd you kind of see out of him, and what was kind of the rationale behind adding another quarterback?
Yeah, so number one, if you have a quarterback, you have a chance. Succession planning at quarterback determines longevity, and quite frankly, if you can build a program. So one quarterback, especially if he's dynamic, chance for injury relatively high. Is it still on the table that your second quarterback could also get hurt if he's dynamic also? So what we found is 3 is usually minimum. We got 2 back from injury that were hurt in the spring, Isaiah and Chavez and Justin Holiday. And so I like the depth, I like the competitive nature, and I think within that, by the end of fall camp, man, we'll have 3 quality players at that spot, which bodes well for the chance for us to be consistent this year.
I know you prefer to not talk about specific injuries and all that, but I guess in general across the board, how healthy are you guys right now?
We're healthy. Injury report coming into fall camp could be as little as 1 as of yesterday.
You've been very successful throughout the year, 17 years of coaching. 2 questions for you here. You've been a veteran coach, 17 years of coaching. What has been the key to your success? And you're very familiar with New Mexico. You haven't been back here since 2002.
So in response to the first question, yeah, I've been a head coach 17 years. This will be my 18th. 16 of those teams have been postseason eligible. And the reason, quite frankly, is I have really high expectations. And what I found is when young people are asked to meet really high expectations and they know that you care, but also that you'll hold them accountable every time, they're anxious to meet those expectations, and they normally do. So I'm not a perfect coach, nor is it a perfect record, nor are there tons of championships, but we're usually playing in the off season, and that's into Christmas, so that's been really fun. But I love the development process, and so young people that will try harder longer is a great predictor of their success in life. It's just also helped us win for a long time.
2002 was the last time you were here in Mexico. just looking around and okay, New Mexico. What was your decision behind that?
Coming back this time, yeah, way deeper and more thought out than just wandering around and saying New Mexico. But I like a challenge. I like transforming people as well as programs. I love making a difference. I love seeing communities become vibrant and alive. College football is a cool way to do that, and New Mexico seemed like a great place to do all of that.
Coach, you've been part of West Coast football for a long time. When you look at just the landscape of it, whether it's the split here in the Pac-12 or otherwise, what's kind of your reaction to that and sort of how that has changed maybe in your coaching career?
Yeah, I think it's changed significantly. To think that the Pac-12 might not have been in existence would have been really hard to fathom a number of years ago. But I think if you consider the trend, right? So it started with, I would say, head coaches maybe leaving an institution to go take another job, and they started doing that even before bowl games, right? So there started to be some boundaries that started to blur then of when a coach would leave. Assistant coaches, certainly it's a transient part of the job and leaving for new and better places, so that was happening. Both of those things by volume, I think, started to influence players wanting to leave and or being held out of bowl games on their own in terms of just a shift in philosophy. Then if you're saying, okay, where did that lead? Basically now schools are transferring conferences, right? So entering the portal. Once that started and the finances became more relevant, it's not surprising that Oregon now is playing in a non-regional area really for the same motives that maybe a head coach, assistant coach, or player would, which would be opportunity and or pay. So now entire schools have done that. I'm tracing it back to where it might have started, but over time it's escalated and we haven't seen the end of it. And so there's certainly realignment coming again. There's certainly divisions coming again. We're in a tenuous position. The Mountain West Conference might be the most stable of any, especially at the group of five level. And the parity that exists makes it intriguing, and quite frankly, more purity within the college game, I think, exists. And so I'm intrigued by all of that. Could there still be changes even in this league? Certainly. The idea of student athlete isn't mentioned much in the terms of realignment and NIL and the portal. And I'm an advocate of student athlete, and one of the reasons I'm back is to continue to emphasize that.
You mentioned the Mountain West and the stability in this league, and with the Pac-12 being what it is, for lack of a better term, maybe the void there, and West Coast football and the Premier League maybe not being there quite the same capacity. Do you feel like there's an opening for the Mountain West as a league to take some of that and maybe gain some more exposure and be in the middle of that conversation?
Yeah, I think the Mountain West has already claimed that spot, and I think the interest, the quality of games that we're playing has already demonstrated that. I think, gosh, the 7 new coaches, but also maybe the quality of coaching returning to the league is remanifesting in maybe a different and profound way. And so, huge opportunity for the Mountain West Conference and the teams within it, I think.
Coach, you mentioned the parity of this league and also the 7 new coaches. How does that influence your outlook on what the season looks like with all that newness?
Opportunity. And so if there are coaches with experience, with parity in an existing model that's proven to work, the chance that that program is up and running faster and the discovery process shorter becomes likely. And so with 7 new coaches, the league is more open than ever to advancement. And so it's a race. And for all of us as new coaches, to claim the void opened by change. And then there becomes repositioning, which we're all after.
And how exciting is that for you? And is that something you maybe talk about with your players to really seize the opportunity?
Certainly it's exciting. Certainly it's talked about because it's real. And yeah, we intend to advance and move forward. I wasn't hired for New Mexico to be the same. And the expectation is I help us become better, and sooner rather than later.
Coach, you said it's kind of like it's a race.
It is a race.
Yeah. You obviously have the spring going into the fall. What do you think you guys are at? How are you liking it?
I like where we are, with acknowledging how far away we are and how fast we have to go. to get results, and so it's going to take everything. The longest it's taken to return to postseason in either of the two previous jobs I've had as a head coach is year 2. I prefer year 1. And so we have a lot to do. 60 new players we've added to our roster. Spring practice is over. We have a healthy team coming in to week 0. But it's a long season. 3 byes, challenging schedule, and a lot of unknowns still. So I'm realistic, but also hopeful and believe what we can do. And so yeah, I don't put any limits on what's possible, but I do acknowledge we have a lot to do in a short amount of time. And the players know that.
Have you seen much of a change in the whole landscape of college football? And I know you've had your feet wet now a little bit. Is there a difference from when you last coached?
It is not the same job. So I'll try to frame that more accurately. It's the same job with a completely new element, and that's being someone responsible for financing as well. And so the fundraising and the financial management and the NIL structure, and quite frankly, the 24/7 recruiting year-round is unlike anything that I've seen. So the roster management and the financial management, those two things are taking more of my time than probably the rest of my career combined had in those 2 areas. That's in addition to doing the regular head coaching job. So that's not a complaint. That's just, has it changed? It has. The roster management and the financial management of the program is significantly different. Young people are amazing. Impact is awesome. The game is really cool. College football is compelling. And yeah, amateur sport and student athlete, being remembered along the way that these kids are learning and growing and becoming, hopefully in addition to playing the sport. And I don't hear that much, but that I view as one of my biggest jobs. And that's something that I think will add significant value to their lives while we're playing good football, not in place of that, but while we're doing that. And that's an additional part of the job that I like to do, but is becoming harder to do because of what's being pulled elsewhere.
Jerry Kelly used to talk to us a little bit about the almost inordinate amount of time we spent on financial management and all that in a relatively small sample size. I mean, are you able to kind of put a percentage of how much time you do spend on that? Yeah, the percentage, I haven't broken it down by percentage, but what I will say that I've done more of that in my short time at New Mexico than I had done at both Brigham Young and University of Virginia combined in my career. And that's that number, that amount of time has already been exceeded here, either by thought or action. And so, yeah, I don't know the percentage yet, but significant and necessary. There's the other part, and necessary.
What did I got a chance to see the tablets over Big 12 Media.
Oh.
It shocked me that the NFL gets 4 still pictures in between series, and now college football is going to have all 22 in its own TV view and live video from a billion angles. How does this change how you construct the coaching staff? I mean, not specifics, but how do you prep for having all that technology available between series?
Yeah, so we have a saying in our program that feedback is a gift. And with feedback, you can adjust and correct in real time. And that, capturing that process, designing that process with the right process owners to yield real feedback in real time, that means between series. If your team isn't advancing and improving as the game goes, then you know that process is flawed. And so with this availability, man, again, there's a race to designing a compelling organizational system to use that feedback and get it applied and communicated.
Additional helmet communication.
And helmet communication with now additional coaches. And so more isn't always better. So now it's making sure the application of, and who are the owners of each process, and the communication lines and the application lines are clear and effective with the right people in each of those spots, because you can have too much. So really cool that we get a chance to experiment with at least one scrimmage, but that's on my mind a lot. So if you go to the book, Good to Great, the right people on the bus, the wrong ones off, but the right people in the right seats. These are new seats on a new bus. at a new time in a new direction of college football, that one little piece, that might be the difference of 1, 2, or 3 wins in a league full of parity.
Do you believe it would benefit offense or defense, or maybe is it equal as far as disguising coverages or pre-snap motion? Who would it benefit?
I think it's equal. And so all the things that we do prior to the game are still on point and very, very effective. But could there be an explanation for the outcome of a play that you miss in real time and then, and then adjust? Because sometimes we're wrong. What we think we see, we don't see. I'm anxious to apply it.
And I think this would probably cut out the whole chatter about stealing signals, it seems.
So it should. And I'm not sure how much, even though there has been, it seems, some NFL controversies about stealing signals, but not nearly as much as college football with the tarps and people moving and 5 different guys signaling and different nonsense, right? But so yes, it should fix that. Could we possibly mess that up somehow too, as grown men in a competitive environment? I don't see a way yet, but I'm anxious for the rest of that to go away that we've been experiencing.
With fall camp just nearly 2 weeks away, how do you approach that with your first year here? But also, are you confident with all the players that you do have that they'll be able to make it through, or do you think there could be some players maybe who don't?
Our program is really demanding. It's very challenging. So the players that have come since spring practice ended, they're struggling to keep up with the players that have come and arrived in January. And so the answer to the question is mixed. Everyone that's here now is committed to be here and choosing to be here under the current circumstances. Some haven't had a big enough sample size yet. They didn't have an off season. They've had maybe 3 weeks, and then they haven't practiced with us yet to see the demands of practice. Could that be challenging for them? That answer is yes. Will it be? That answer will be yes. Could their roles not be quite what they have wanted, and could that be discouraging? That answer is yes. So there's a chance there could be roster changes through fall camp. I don't anticipate many, if any, but could it happen? Yeah. I like our team. I like the resolve. I like their determination. I think they're gritty. I think they're tough. And I think they know what they signed up for. And even in the short weeks of the newcomers, they basically have said, you told us this is what it would be, and this is more than what we thought, but it is what you said, and we're still glad we're here. So practice will come, and then, it always helps when you have success on the field. That seems to generate credibility, in my case, because I've coached for so long and had success. That isn't remaining such an issue, but success and wins certainly help with momentum, and they help with retention. And so tough schedule, and that'll be at play with a lot of programs, especially as they start. But again, I think our team is resilient, and I think they're sticky. They want to be here.
This year marks 40 years since BYU last won a national title. As somebody who coached there for a lot of years when they were in the Mountain West and now coaching in the Mountain West yourself, I'm curious if you think an underdog team like 1984 BYU can still win a title in today's college football.
I have to believe they can, and I would love to see, with a 12-team playoff, for an underdog-ish team to get in and pull it off. Is it possible? It has to be possible. There'll be plenty to argue the other way, that resources prevent that and there's no chance. I don't think so. I have to believe it's possible, do believe it's possible, and I think it'd be great for college football for it to be demonstrated that it is possible, and maybe we might rebalance in some way of what college football, maybe a better version of college football.
A little bit on that note, but from the last time you were in the Mountain West with BYU and even on staff in New Mexico and whatnot, how is this league different to what you're facing now as first-year head coach at UNM? Yeah,
I'm not sure yet. When I was in the Mountain West before, when it started, gosh, with TCU and Utah and BYU and the quality of teams, man, it was a great league, really tough. I remember when Utah, TCU left, BYU went independent, that there was a significant shift there. But that void was filled with new teams, and the Mountain West has been strong and consistent for a long time. I see it being strong and consistent now, but gosh, with 7 new coaches, that's a ton, right? I don't think that reflects on the league stability. I think it reflects on college football. and it's a very unique time. But I think the league is if not the most stable, one of the most stable at any level. And I love the parity. I love the type of towns that the Mountain West has, and it just feels more true college football-ish to me, and my idealism. So I like it.
A lot of those new coaches too are also, they've got, like yourself, they've got power conference experience now as well. Does that also kind of speak to the league a little bit? And I guess you can kind of speak to it from you personally to making it a little bit more attractive, to not just like moving quote unquote up that ladder anymore, but actually finding a place where you can be, right?
Yeah, sometimes up the ladder is down the ladder. It might be perceived by the outside world that you're going up, but possibly morally and for your family or for your values, you're going down. So up isn't always up by perception. I think the league, right, there's young up-and-coming coaches. Gosh, when I got to be the head coach at BYU, I was young. So there's some young coach in this league I look at and say, yeah, he's going to be really good. And now there's some older, more seasoned, myself and Kenny and Troy and Jeff, that have kind of seen the other part and like where we are. And I like that mix. I think it's pretty cool and not very typical.
That sounds like wisdom learned from a lot of fresh Montana air over the last year.
There's something about Montana that I recommend to all of you. That doesn't mean you can come stay at my place, but it means come visit. You know, they call Montana the last best place, and I think I've just shared with distance has come clarity, and I'm clear as to what I want to do, why I want to do it, and where. And sometimes we can take ourselves too seriously in the world of college football, and Montana helped me see that.
On the note of more isn't always better and maybe like too many cooks in the kitchen, I mean, in terms of, analysts being able to coach on field, how are you approaching that with this staff in particular?
So I prefer a SEAL team more than infantry. Like, I like fewer. I'm at a place that is able to fund fewer, so that's a good alignment. But we have an offensive analyst that I think is exceptional. That's one. We have one defensive analyst that's exceptional. We have one special teams analyst that's exceptional. So we'd be adding 3 people, and man, we can use them. We have roles for them already. Still working back to the question of the tablets, etc., and how they fit into that. But we just added 3 coaches to our staff, as well as the analytics role they play. Possibly the analytics role between series is going to be, I think, really fast and effective, because that's already what that group is doing. And so I have a pretty good idea, not a perfect idea yet, how we're going to implement it, but it won't be where we're overrun by coaches, but possibly our 3 analysts are included, and we'd stop at that.
Piggybacking kind of off of what Lauren and Jared were kind of asking too, in terms of how hard things have been within the program, in terms of, the work ethic and getting after it and all that. Luke told me yesterday he's on a red t-shirt now, which is the 4th tier. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming all the new guys are in whites right now, but I mean, how have things kind of progressed in that regard?
Yeah, colors are moving, and there's rites of passage where someone moves a color. There's a ceremony for them. It's a big deal, not only for the individual, but for our team. And basically, the more color we have, the better our team is going to be. So it's really fun that the players are supporting each other. Testing begins again this upcoming week, with the first 2 days of the following week being the finish of that. And so that will set the colors going into fall camp. Jerseys will be earned, jersey numbers will be earned through fall camp prior to the first game. That won't be the entire team, but it'll be players that qualify. And so, yeah, I really like where we are, and it matters to me when someone works hard enough to change colors, and it just is a visible sign of progress. So sometimes we think we're moving, but when numbers validate it, you have a tangible symbol to show for it, it seems to drive the culture at a higher level.
Coach, you guys have an early season test against Arizona. How much more prepared do you guys think you'll be from having Montana State ahead of that game? Obviously, a lot of new players before facing a team that won 10 games last season.
Yeah, we'll be more prepared for sure. I'll have a much better idea, and I'm not really even talking about Arizona's preparation. I'm just talking about my understanding of where our team is. Montana State is a very good team. Regardless of what FC or FBS you put in front of them, Montana State's a very good team. Us playing a game, seeing our team perform, will give us a much different reference point prior to Arizona than if we didn't play a game. So we'll be more prepared for sure.
And then little bit of a niche question here. You guys have a player, Skylar Cook, a safety out of the San Diego El Centro area. What have you seen from him in your short time here? What kind of role could he carve out?
Yeah, Skylar, trustworthy, productive, fast learner, and really competitive. And so at the end of spring, he was in our 2 deep. We've added more secondary players. And so could he be in the 2 deep? Yes. Could he be a special teams contributor? Yes. Is he going to have to battle for either or both of those? Totally. But really liked what I've seen from him in 1 semester and 1 spring. Yeah, he's trustworthy, he's responsible, and he's productive. And we use 3 criteria. And how durable is a player usually means how consistent he is, which then allows us to see if he's productive. And so far, he's been all 3 of those. Yeah.
Coach, I know there's a lot that goes into a rebuild, and obviously motivation being a big one. Talking to both Gabe and Luke yesterday, they're just saying you're a great motivator, and like you couldn't even really describe like what you say, but just the way you say it. What is like kind of your message right now to this team?
Yeah, I just don't accept limits on anybody, and I expect a lot. I expect a lot because I believe in them, and I'm not afraid to ask them for the work that will support that. And I really care about these kids. And gosh, by caring, I ask them to become, and I support them in that. And I'd love to see them be successful. And so they've captured my heart in terms of who they want to become, and the place has captured me. That's why I'm here. And I just see a really compelling story developing at the University of New Mexico, not only for the people on our team and in our program, but the surrounding community and the institution itself. And I can imagine great football with a full stadium and strong results for the Lobos. And it's not a stretch for me to say and think that. And I think the players believe the same. I'm not guaranteeing anything other than I think it's possible. And time frame will play out in front of everybody.
Coach, the archives at KSL Sports are pretty deep.
Uh-oh.
Found
That's
that
Snow
recently.
College.
What would this All-American candidate DB at Snow College think if you told him the journey that he'd be on that would lead you here today?
That's a really good question. I think he'd be surprised and would wonder why you would travel that path. But we're grateful. What I would tell that person if I switched it, that he would be grateful by choosing and doing hard things. That's what I would tell that version of myself a long time ago. And yeah, thanks for pulling that up. It's a long time ago.
Pretty good interview with Paul James.
I remember. Yeah.
Coach, in regards to obviously all your experience coaching, when you look at this team in particular, we talk about identity. How has it been easier to kind of just assess the character of the roster versus the identity, before the kickoff?
I don't know our identity. I know our culture, and I know the individuals. I don't know the identity of the team yet, and so how we're going to play football, I'm not sure yet. Yeah, we'll play some form of offense and some form of defense and some form of complementary style, but until I see more managing the entire game, that'll be playing out in front of all of us. And but I like what I see so far in terms of talent, in terms of culture, and in terms of preparation to this point. But we're not a finished product yet.
NILs kind of look different everywhere, but as far as New Mexico goes, Coach Sanders, I was last year talking about like 70% of the athletes that are in New Mexico, they stay there the rest of their lives. Some crazy numbers. So how do you kind of just factor in working with the community, how they can help the program, through NIL, and how the players can also give back in that same way?
Yeah, so we give back first and foremost. Thursday's Hero program it's really important to my wife and I and our foundation to make a difference in the community. I like to view us way more as givers than takers. It was surprising to me when I was hired at New Mexico to see the number of former players that I coached here the first time still living in Albuquerque. And that was startling to me. And to your point, I didn't think they would stay. And they have families, and they love it. And so that's helped me frame New Mexico not just a place to play football, but a place to live and a place to stay and raise families. and that's been helpful to me. And so I don't know if the statistic is right at 70% or not, but I know I've been surprised by the number of my former players from the first time that are still here, and I like that perspective.
Coach, how much have you enjoyed you assembling your coaching staff and you're coming back and coaching to have former players that you coached and former coaches at BYU and Virginia come back and work with you, and how enjoyable has that been?
Yeah, we have the most former players of a head coach in all of college football. So 14 is the number. So 8 of my 10 assistants and my entire football building is nothing but former players of mine. And I love developing young people. That's not only players, that's young coaches as well. These are people I know, love, and trust. And I don't have time for onboarding or convincing someone this is the way that we're going to do it. These guys, I recruited them, they played in my system, they've coached in the system, they know me intimately and vice versa, so we're fast and we're aligned and we're loyal. We're not perfect, but I love seeing them every day. It's a cool place to work.
How does that chemistry help maybe going into year one to maybe potentially exceed these expectations?
Yeah, I think it absolutely helps. I shared a picture with some of my staff members of a young man that played for us at Virginia, and he says, "I'm certain that Charlottesville West will exceed expectations." That was his message to me. UVA is in Charlottesville. All of his teammates are my coaches, and they basically came by saying, and what he shared with, "You transformed our lives. That's why it will work. You'll do the same there." So that's coming from someone that's basically a teammate of the same guys that are my coaches. That's what they believe the program will do. I'm not guaranteeing that, but I know they think the program changed their lives, changed their teammates' lives, and had success. And so they think that will happen in New Mexico as well. And I get to do it with the same guys, which is, it's amazing.
Coach, you've had a long tenure before in the Mountain West and coming back to a new Mountain West, a different Mountain West. What do you think about some of the changes, both in terms of membership, but also just in terms of what the Mountain West is now versus that?
Yeah, I love the league. I love the coaches in it, the type of schools, and again, as I've said already today, the parity. It looks to me like any team at any time has a great chance to do well in this league. And man, if you're a competitor, that's exciting for, much like the NFL, right? Their idea is if you finish low, then you draft high to try to have everyone have a chance. Our league looks like it's designed where everyone's got a chance. This year, especially with 7 new coaches.
What was the process to bring Jan Jorgensen on board, and what's your relationship been like with him through the years?
Yeah, the process. So I coached Jan at BYU. At that time, all-time leading Mountain West sack getter. Then he went into professional fighting, mixed martial arts and cage fighting and all that stuff. And then he went into coaching. A former coach of mine and player at BYU, Kelly Papinga, who coaches at BYU. Jan was an analyst at BYU last year. I took this job, and Kelly reached out as well as Jan. And so, man, he was exactly what I was looking for in terms of presence and having players capable of getting pressure on the quarterback. And yeah, there's not only how his history of doing it himself, his current presence of what he looks like and how he trains people with their hands, but also loyalty and friendship. And that basically explains my whole staff. And so, again, that staff was assembled in about a little less than 6 hours-ish. And he was one of those that just wanted an opportunity.
Coach, if I can just quickly ask, what was it about New Mexico as a program and as an institution that attracted you back to it?
Yeah, a chance to make a difference. So I loved it my first time and would love to see New Mexico football return to consistency, postseason, and contending for Mountain West championships. And it looks like it's needed, and needed at a high level. And I like that framework.
Sorry, I apologize. You talked about you're gonna obviously Wyoming's gonna come down and face you guys. You've obviously seen Wyoming a lot. When you were at BYU, you've been around the Mountain West. Can you kind of talk about like for a pregame article, what do you expect to see from Wyoming, and what it's like to play against them, and then also what you expect to throw at Wyoming as well?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've played against Wyoming, but it seems like each time we play them, it's the same team. They're tough and they're physical, and they play with a sense of pride that is, I think, deeper than most. And so I'd expect a very challenging and physical game, and I don't expect it to be finesse, and I don't expect it to be soft. I expect it to be a tough, physical, violent, hard-fought game all the way to the end. And traditionally, that's what Wyoming football's been known for.